Welcome to a Word of Hope. I'm Brother Edward, coming to you from St. Vincent Ferrer Priory in River Forest, Illinois, on this, the 28th Sunday of Ordinary Time, October the 13th. In today's rich readings, as we go to Mass this Sunday, we will hear different dimensions of the idea, or, if you will, the reality of the Word of God. In the first reading from the Book of Wisdom, we hear the writer saying that he would prefer the gift of wisdom and knowledge to all the power that's in our world today. That he would rather embrace the prudence and the insight of the Word of God over things like silver and gold and riches and prestige. But we see a further development in the reading from St. Paul. In St. Paul's letter to the Hebrews, or I should say the letter to the Hebrews, we hear this call to indeed to understand the Word of God, not only as a sound or a letter, but as a person, the person of Jesus Christ. That Jesus is the Word of God, and when Jesus speaks the Word of God, things happen. Think about when Jesus tells the blind person to see or the crippled to walk. There's a power in the Word of God in this person of Jesus. But the Word of God in the life of Jesus has a function that continues in our own time. The Word of God, if you will, is a tool for diagnosis of our culture and our society in which we live. Right now, we're in the political campaign for the presidency and many public offices. And all these different voices are telling us what the condition of our country is at this time. Most of it, I have to say, is problem-orientated. What's wrong with the country and how these individuals are going to fix it for us. But the Word of God functions in a different way. Instead of just pointing out the negative, the Word of God calls us to diagnose our society, to discover where faith, hope, and charity exist among us. That, in fact, even with all the woes that we hear on all the ads that we're receiving through social media at this time, there is faith, there is hope, and there is charity in the world. And the Word of God helps us to diagnose those cultural dimensions that bring to reality the Word of God in today's society, in the United States, in the world, in different locations. That each one of us has this challenge from the Word of God to locate the living presence of God with us. In this reading from the letter to the Hebrews, it said, "Indeed, the Word of God is living and effective, sharper than a two-edged sword. Yes, it penetrates even between soul and spirit, joint and marrow, and able to discern reflections and thoughts of the heart." So when we use the Word of God rather than a political ideology or a theory, a social theory, but the Word of God as our diagnostic, we will discover the living Christ in our times, in our lives, and in the social world in which we live.